Welcome to the Hodgy Podgy Podcast with me, Lauren Strati. Today, we are going back to our Menagerie Mondays. I know if you listened to the previous episode, I said that we would be doing some Therapy Thursday, but I just needed a little bit of a break from therapy, from our Therapy Thursdays. Life has been really busy and crazy lately, and it's only going to continue for the next few months with baseball and softball season in full swing. And I just really want to focus on stuff that's fun and enjoyable, things that we can laugh at, things that we can all go, oh my gosh, yeah, I totally remember that. That's what I want to focus on. If there's anything though that you are struggling with and you want to talk about, you can definitely email me or DM me through my Instagram. All of those links will be in the show notes. You can definitely do that, and I will do an episode for you if you're like, I really want to have somebody talk about these things, but I don't really have anybody that I can talk about it. I will totally do that for you. Don't be shy about it. Just let me know. For right now, though, I just want to focus on Mondays. I feel like it's just going to be easier and it's just more fun. I want this to be lighthearted and we're going to see where this takes us. So if you haven't started following the podcast on socials, I have 2 Instagrams for it. I've got just the Hodgy Podgy one, and then I have mine, like Lauren at the Hodgy Podgy Podcast. I've got, which is more personal, but you can follow either one. Then if you haven't hit the notification button for when new episodes happen on YouTube or Spotify, Apple iTunes, wherever you listen to your podcast, or Apple Podcast, wherever you listen to that, make sure you do that so that way you're notified every week when a new episode comes through. I appreciate all the support. Just trying to grow this podcast. I know after talking to some podcast folks, this can take a little bit of time, and I am not a patient person. I'm probably, I think that my children are impatient, and then I realize that they get that from me because I am extremely impatient. I can see an outcome for something and I can feel it with my whole heart and like in my bones. And then when I can't see it happening in my current reality right now, I'm like, what the heck? And I get super discouraged and again, really impatient. So I'm just trying to grow this podcast, but I want to be able to enjoy it. I want you guys to be able to enjoy it and just have a good time strolling down memory lane, talking about, and we'll talk about stuff current as well, but for the next few weeks it'll probably be like we're talking about foods from the past this time around. Then there's some big movies that are celebrating anniversaries we'll talk about too, all sorts of different things. If you have any ideas or anything else you want me to talk about, definitely let me know. Don't be shy. Please don't be shy. Just let me know. Be kind, please. But don't be shy. So, like I said, today we're going to be talking about foods from the past. We did an episode a while back where we talked about foods and drinks that were discontinued. Now we're going to talk about all the weirdo stuff we used to eat and drink as kids in mainly the 90s and the 2000s, because that's where I grew up. I was born in 85. So I do remember stuff from the 80s, but mainly the 90s and the 2000s. So we ate a lot of weird stuff as kids. Like we just did. I think it was a lot of processed foods were coming out. This was the era of processed foods, quick foods, brightly colored stuff, all of the things, like major heavy hardcore marketing towards kids to eat all of this stuff. And then they would just slap labels on it like, oh, it's got these vitamins, they're good for you, or like they would make you eat vitamins like the Flintstone ones, which we can all still collectively taste in our mouths. And none of us liked the orange one. I know, I'm sure there's one person that was like, oranges were my favorite. But the orange ones were always like, give me a purple, please, or a red. But there was a huge marketing scheme to target us kids because a lot of parents both of them were working. So kids needed to be entertained at home by themselves. And what better way to entertain kids than weird foods and TV, which is what my childhood was all about. Weird foods and TV. And I know a lot of other kids were like that too. Or weird foods we could take with us when we go outside and we're gone for hours. And then we come back when the street lights come on and we know, oh shoot, we got to come home. That was our time. That was our age of growing up. So with those foods, a lot of them were brightly colored with artificial stuff and processed stuff, fake stuff, but we freaking loved it all. We loved it all. So I want to talk about that stuff. I had friends and family give me a list of foods that they remember growing up with that they would either never touch again or it's like their little guilty pleasure now. So we're going to talk about those and tell me which ones you can relate to, which ones are your favorites that you remember as a kid or ones that you used to love but you know you'll never touch again. Please let me know. I want to know all of the things. So as we know, there was a big processed food boom in like the 70s and the 80s. They loved to create all these different things that you could microwave, that you could cook quickly or take with you quickly, like microwavable burgers or pudding cups. Love some pudding cups or Jell-O. All of these different things that were just easy to be on the go. Like you didn't even have to refrigerate pudding cups. You could just throw them in a lunch and that was just easy. Or the TV dinners where a kid could just heat it up themselves and you just had to make sure that you stabbed it properly and whatever. And you got to make sure that you cook everything just right so you don't like make your brownie super lava crazy hot, because that was the goal to get to the brownie after all of the other crap you didn't really want to eat, but you had to. So you had to make sure that you cooked everything just so in your microwave so you could enjoy the brownie at the end. Then the whole goal was to make things easier. You had either both parents working, or a lot of like my household for a while was my single mom. So she was just trying to make things easier and cheaper. So whatever was the easiest for her to give us is what we got, whether it was processed, artificial, or whatever, it was what we got. Then there was the cool factor, right? Like everything was cool or extreme, had these bright colors that just drew kids to them. And you knew that the parents were going to be like, all right, fine, whatever. Get your Dunkaroos, get your Squeeze-Its, or whatever extreme, crazy, radical foods that were listed that you wanted to get. You pretty much got, most of us kids had something like that in our pantry at all times. Everything was filled with sugar or artificial colors or whatever. And like sugar has its place. I think sugar is very important for our bodies and our brains need it. But this was, not quite, this was sugar. Like in cereals, lots of sugary cereals that we used to love to get. It was just this big boom of trying to get all of these different combos of food, different, like McDonald's had a pizza at one point, which I don't even remember, but apparently that was a thing. They had a Halloween Whopper at Burger King where there was the black bun and there was purple ketchup just because, like, it was always just some sort of crazy concoction of different foods, because if it was new, if it was weird, if it was brightly colored, there was a higher chance of us getting our parents to buy that stuff. I never had a Halloween Whopper. That I don't know if that would have appealed to me as a kid anyway. But sourdough Jack from Jack in the Box, I was always down for. Then, so the list of stuff my friends and family gave me, I could definitely relate to. I'm going to get to my list too, because I think that, and you can judge me for my weird things that I used to do as a kid all you want. But there was like my mother-in-law, Mima, and my husband talked about SpaghettiOs. Ugh, I can't, like anything tomato-y, I can just smell it. I'm not like against, I'm not a huge fan of ketchup, but I like I'm okay with spaghetti and stuff. But like I can smell the can and I can see it, and it's just, I don't want it anywhere near me or in my brain. They were all about the SpaghettiOs or mac and cheese, the Kraft mac and cheese. That was one thing that all of us grew up with. Then there was my friend Jamie talked about Dunkaroos, which we talked about in a previous episode, how they discontinued them and then they brought them back, but they changed the kangaroo from a kangaroo to a D, and it's not the same. Then she mentioned the cheese spread with the red stick, and you would take, and like the club crackers or whatever, and you would take the cheese, quote unquote cheese, and you'd spread it on the crackers, and that was just like the best snack. But then you always had to do some crazy sort of calculation, like, okay, if I stick this ratio of cheese on this one, will I have enough for the rest of the crackers and still have enough to scrape around the little square of cheese and lick it off the stick as a final ending to the snack? Like, you had to do mathematical equations to figure out how to get it just right, so you had the satisfying ending of licking that cheese off that stick. I know that's what we did as a kid. Then there was, of course, Squeeze-Its, which we talked about. That was a big thing. That was one of the things I mentioned in my previous episode. If you want to go back to that one, I really liked that episode. It was a really fun one where we talked about the foods and drinks that we had as a kid that they took away. Some they brought back, but it's just not the same because they changed the ingredients and stuff. So go back to that episode, watch it. It's a really fun one. My friend Jamie also talked about Lunchable cold pizza. I was all about the Lunchable. My mom always used to get it. And there's a part of me that was like, I know that these round circles of meat are like super processed and probably not the best, but it's what I got and I'm going to eat it. And those were fine. And then when you'd get the ones that had the Andy Mint in it, that was the best. There were some Lunchables that would get the Andy Mint. And that was like the whole goal, to finish the Lunchable and then have your mint at the end. And it was just the best. But she used to love the pizza ones, the cold pizza ones. And again, I can smell the sauce and I can see the thickness, and it's just like tomato paste right out of the can. And I'm just like, she tried with all her might. And I remember one day she tried to get me to eat it. And she's like, it's so good. It was like one of the most disgusting things I've ever had in my life. It was so gross. My husband used to like them too. I don't get it. I don't understand why. It was a cold, hard piece of cardboard bread with really gross sauce and like super powdery cheese. And it's just, I can't, no. I'll just give me my processed circles of meat, please. And my crackers that were just okay. And my square cheese, please. That was just, ugh. She also talked about hose water, which most of us kids, when our parents sent us outside during the summer, like, go outside, leave me alone. You've watched too much TV, you're driving me crazy. Or your parents just weren't home and you watched all the TV and you were just outside by the pool or whatever, like I was. We loved hose water. It was just something about the taste and, all the minerals and parasites that we just loved so much. But you had to wait for the water to not be hot lava, and there was always one person that forgot that the hose has been sitting in the hot sun for days, and there's always that one person that like tried to go for the hose and it's like, and it just burned the crap out of them. But then once you get through the burning hot lava water, you get the nice crisp cool hose water that just tasted primo. So good. Then I had a sister who was like, hey, stop turning on the hose and wasting all the water. The water police are going to come knocking at our door and we're going to get in trouble and they're going to take you away. That's what I got when I kept wanting to drink hose water. She would tell me that the water police were going to come take me away. Thanks so much, my dear sister. We also had a friend of mine talk about their love for banana pudding. Still, like, he's a super healthy guy. Doesn't eat much processed food or anything, but one thing that he still loves is banana pudding. I mean, pudding cups were good, man. Like, they were really good. My daughter will be more willing to try pudding than my son. But, because we used to make it, I remember loving the pistachio flavored pudding. Like, that was good. Or the chocolate, obviously, and then any of the Jellos. But my kids are especially my son, are real particular about texture. Neither one of them like watermelon because it's all gritty and whatever. But I get it. There's some things that I have never even tried and won't try because just looking at the texture, I can feel it on my tongue and I can't. Like cottage cheese. No, I can't. Nope. None of that. But pudding. Pudding was one of those things all of us used to love to have in our lunchbox when it was, especially if it was like that layered one. You would just carefully get through the first chocolate layer and then you'd decide whether or not you want to just plow through that light, was it like the vanilla or lighter chocolate level? Or if you wanted to mix it with the bottom, you had to see, again, all of these, we were learning so much in school and we didn't even know it. All of these certain calculations and ratios and all these different math problems we had to figure out just with lunch, just with our processed food lunches. Then there was a friend of mine also mentioned Lunchables, boxed cereal, goldfish crackers. We will get back to the boxed cereal because that was my jam. I loved cereals. And we'll do a Mandela effect about a boxed cereal too. We'll see what you guys think about that. But goldfish crackers, they've improved I used to love eating goldfish crackers, fun fact, with gushers. I used to make a gusher sandwich with a goldfish on top and on bottom, and then I would eat them together. And for some reason, that combo was just amazing to me. I know it sounds super gross, but that combo just was so good. But they've improved their ingredients now. They don't have artificial crap in them. Is it the best snack in the world? No. But I mean, when you can get 45 bags at Costco and it's not full of complete processed artificial stuff, it's a good snack for your kids when you're on the go, or baseball, or, baseball teams and stuff. So I used to be really hardcore organic this, organic that, blah, 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 blah. But then stuff got really freaking expensive, man. And I can't just keep shelling out the money for all the super expensive snacks that are you get half of it for twice the price. So as you would for goldfish. Plus, I want my kids to not be total spazzes when they grow up and freak out anytime they're somewhere where there's processed food or whatever. Live your life. Make your best choices. Don't just eat the food and just take care of yourself as best as you can. I don't want them to be crazy paranoid or anything like that. I don't want them to grow up with any food fears or anything like that. Just treat yourself right, live your life. So we have goldfish crackers in our house. Gasp. Then a friend of mine mentioned how she used to love Chips Ahoy. I used to love Chips Ahoy too, especially the chewy ones. My husband was not about the chewy ones, but we used to get Chips Ahoy in our house still. It's been a while because I just make them homemade because I feel like homemade, just like my friend thinks that homemade chocolate chip cookies are better. Plus, you can control the ratio of chips to cookie dough. So I know my husband and my kids like lots of chocolate chips in their cookies, but I like to taste the cookie more than the chocolate. So that way I can control the ratios. Again, math. There's still ratios to be had and to be doing as you grow up, even with homemade foods. Just ratio of cookie to chocolate chip. Then, see, you're always learning. Always learning. Then processed ramen. My friend, she still eats processed or packaged ramen. My husband, that is his go-to food, is top ramen. When he is not feeling well, he will eat that. And I remember like listening and watching those videos like, top ramen stays in your food. It stays in your stomach for this long, like forever. And it just gave like this time-lapse video of like the noodles in top ramen just sitting there in someone's stomach forever. And I was just like, oh God. So I still have that like fear in me. But I used to eat top ramen raw with like never cooking it. Like I would cook it sometimes, obviously, but I would take my friends and I would take the package, the seasoning package, and just and go and just eat it raw, full of MSG, not a care in the world. Didn't care if our fingers were swollen from all of the MSG crap and whatever was in it. Didn't care how long the noodles stayed in our stomachs. We thought it was delicious and we loved it and we didn't worry about it. So I worry about it now, but my husband still enjoys it and so does my friend. So I don't care as long as they are enjoying themselves. Then my sister had this huge long list of foods that she remembers eating, like the Swiss Miss hot chocolate powder, Carnation instant breakfast. I remember having those when I was like 19 or 20, living in an apartment by myself. I thought that was just like, I'm so healthy with my Carnation instant breakfast. Look at me on the go. Then I realized not so much. But I really wish that I could drink something like that. I mean, I have chocolate milk, which is, I've got a good brand of chocolate milk. We'll come back to that. I'll tell you all about that in a second. But if you were to look at my fridge and freezer and pantry when I was in my early 20s, and you would see a stack of lean cuisines in the freezer next to like the peanut butter Klondike bars. And then you would see like a bunch of processed foods in the fridge. And I would try and get like some vegetables that my friend was trying to get me into. And then there's a bunch of snack wells in my pantry. That was what I lived off of in my early 20s. That and Jamba Juice. I used to get to be 20 and not care and just want to work out and watch it. Like, in your 20s, it's a completely different thing. Like, it's so crazy when you like flashback, because I just turned 40. So when I think about what I did in my 20s, it's so funny. I used to live off of a Jamba Juice and like the pretzels that they would have there, like some sort of pretzel. It was never really good. I was just used to getting it, and that would be my meal for almost the entire day. And then I might have a dinner, and then I would fall asleep on the couch watching TV, and then wake up at 2:00 in the morning and do my workouts. And my downstairs neighbor wasn't exactly pleased, but I still did them anyway because 20-year-old Lauren didn't care. But so anyway, processed foods, sorry, that was a little tangent. It just made me think of those days like, man, that was just, how did I survive? Now I need like solid food to live and function and think and keep other people alive. It's crazy. So my sister, instant breakfast, Carnation instant breakfast, Nestle Quick, Ovaltine. I don't remember ever having Ovaltine. My mom used to get it, but I don't remember ever actually tasting it. Then Ho-Hos, Ding Dongs, Twinkies. I always think about Die Hard. Can't help but think about Die Hard and Al Powell eating his Twinkie, or his love for them. Can't help but think about it. There was always, or the Hostess cupcakes. Do you remember those? Like, they still have them obviously, but I don't feel like much of us adults eat Hostess cupcakes anymore. We used to always have those. And again, you have to figure out, do you want to peel off the frosting? Do you want to try and peel off the white part? The little circly doo-doos? Do you want to peel those off? Do you want to peel the whole chocolate frosting off? Do you want to take your bites so you get like each section, you get the cream in the middle, you get the cake, you get the frosting. What do you want to do? And it was different every time with what like we decided we wanted to do. And then you had like the chocolate and stuff in your teeth for the rest of the day. She also mentioned Kraft mac and cheese. Of course, that was a staple in everybody's house. My husband still loves mac and cheese. Now we just get the Annie's organic mac and cheese mix from Costco. But still loves his mac and cheese. Our kids love mac and cheese. He grew up with that. I grew up with it. I remember my sister made it for us one time when I was a kid. And she used to put like, I still can't remember if it was like garlic salt or something, or pepper, or just plain garlic. I don't know what she did. But I wanted it on mine. And she's like, you're not going to like it. And I was like, no, just do it. And I was like 4. And she's like, okay. And so she put it on. And I was like, yeah, I want more. And she's like, you're not going to eat it. And she did it. And I took a bite. I'm like, I don't like it. Oh, man. And now I have kids. And so now I know exactly how frustrated she felt in that moment. Because she's like, oh, I told you. But I didn't believe her. Then we've got Kraft Singles. American cheese. It's going to be a double quotation marks, American cheese. I don't know what was in those. I think they still have them, but I don't know what was in those. I don't think I ever want to know what was in those. But, I mean, they were super easy to make grilled cheese. Grilled cheese was one of my top meals that I used to make by myself as a kid all the time. Because if you're trying to be, like, healthy and you've got, like, the block cheese at home and you're trying to use that slicer as a kid, you're cutting, like, tiny little bits of cheese. And you're just, screw it. I want my processed American cheese in the little plastic wrappers. And that was just easiest. But probably most of us will never, ever touch those slices of cheese again. And you can tell the difference if somebody were to put that on your burger versus regular cheese. You will immediately be able to tell the difference. There's just like the melting point is different, like the texture. You'll know, like especially a kid of the 90s, we know the difference between American cheese and regular cheese. But yeah, even thinking about what might be in it now, I don't want to think about it. Then she said anything with Velveeta. My mom, she didn't push vegetables on us too often. And she didn't push broccoli on me too often. But there was one time she tried to get me to eat cheese, probably Velveeta, cheese covered broccoli. It was the most disgusting thing. It took me years to even want to try broccoli again after that. It tasted and smelled like somebody just threw up all over the place. And now I had to be a baby bird. And sorry if you're eating anything right now. But like that's what it was. Like that combination was so terrible. And she made me eat it. She didn't make me eat stuff often. But that was one of those times. We'll get to the next time in a minute. But yeah, anything Velveeta. I hear it makes a really great queso. I think that's what my in-laws do to make homemade queso. They use that. So I'll give them that. Velveeta mixed with meat and stuff makes a great queso. But don't you come at me with broccoli and Velveeta. I'll cut you. Then Cheese Whiz. Like the spray cheese too. Like my mom used to love her cheese spray. So she would get the bacon flavor, and she would have it with the club crackers. And I would come home from school and she'd be upstairs, like in her room with her little snack assortment for whatever reason. And she would have her bacon flavored Cheese Whiz spray or whatever, and the club crackers, watching a show. And I just remember being so excited to like steal some from her because they were so good. And I loved that it was bacon flavored. To even think about it now makes me want to gag a little bit. But I used to love that stuff. It's so strange. We ate so many strange things. Then there was all the sugary cereals. My sister listed, like, she loved Cookie Crisp. Cookie Crisp now, I remember trying it, like, 10, had to be before pre-kids, like 15 years ago or so. And it did not taste the same as when I ate it as a kid. Like, they tasted like little cookies when I was a kid. And they just did not taste the same. And the character was different too. And I didn't like that either. So it did not taste the same. But my sister loved Cookie Crisp. She loved the oyster crackers. My mom always used to have the oyster crackers. They were by the same brand that does the saltine crackers. Vienna sausages, I forgot to look up what those were. I don't think I want to know. I had a friend that every Friday, his wife, now ex-wife, would make them eat vegetarian hot dogs from a can. I used to live with them. It was, I don't know how he did it. Like, I give him credit for being able to get through that. But one, it's vegetarian. Two, it's in a can. I don't. So props. I mean, bravo for surviving that. I couldn't be in the room anytime that was happening. I had to leave. But don't know what Vienna sausages are exactly, but she used to eat those. Then hot dogs with cheese in the middle. Ugh. No, thank you. And Sunny D, I don't know. I think my friend Jamie used to have Sunny D's at her house, but I don't know how often I even ever drank those. I think I was just like, this doesn't taste like how I think it should taste, and I don't think I ever actually liked them. Then she mentions like Klondike bars. Like I said, in my 20s, had Klondike bars in my freezer until I started to like pay attention to macros and stuff, and then I was like, oh no. And then I stopped getting them, but they were delicious. Then Hamburger Helper. We grew up in our house with Hamburger Helper. That was one of our main meals. They had all these different varieties, even though they all mostly tasted the same. All these different varieties, like the stroganoff, the macaroni, the regular, the chili mac, all of these different things. And then we used to have those all the time, so much so that none of us growing up could ever eat it again. I make a homemade version now that's really good, healthier, much better, and the family loves it. But yeah, it took a long while to get over that because we had it so much as kids. Then there was the other thing my mom tried to force me to eat, and that was tuna helper. I can see like the peas in it right now, just thinking about it. And I remember where I was sitting at the table, and she's like, you have to eat it. And I don't know if she actually made me finish it because she kind of let me get away with whatever I wanted. So if I put up enough of a stink, I don't think she would have forced me. But I just remember having to sit there forever, and it was getting late, and it was getting cold. And I was just like, I can't eat this. Please don't make me eat this. Ugh, no. So if you can relate to having to eat the tuna helper, let me know. Let me know you felt my pain because, oh, man. Then, so tons of different things we used to eat as a kid to make life easier for us and our parents. I was all about the cereal. I loved Captain Crunch, Fruity Pebbles, Cocoa Pebbles, Fruit Loops, any of the stuff that my mom would get at Costco because they would have like the mix sometimes. Or do you remember getting the random boxes of cereal, small boxes in the mail? Do you remember that? Like they would just show up and it would be the best freaking day ever. Just these little samples, or sometimes there'd be like a 6-pack of different kinds, like Frosted Flakes and Fruit Loops and all these different kinds. Cause like these companies were trying to market the cereal to kids. Those were the best days. I was so excited that when we would get those cereals, man, it was like they had some pretty good marketing schemes going on back then. Not gonna lie, like those were smart. I fell for all of them. Then, so as a kid, I loved the American cheese. I did. Now, not so much. But I was all about making the cinnamon toast, with the white bread, Wonder Bread, or whatever bread my mom got. Sometimes it was Wonder, sometimes it wasn't. Then putting the butter on there. You got to toast the bread. Then you put the butter on. and then the sugar, and then the cinnamon, and then you do like a slight tap, make sure, and then you stick it in the toaster again. And we didn't have a toaster oven back then. It was just the toaster. So you had to make sure that you got all the excess powder of the cinnamon off, so you don't cause like any smoke, and that way your toast doesn't smell like smoke or taste like smoke. So, but that was like a classic meal that us kids stuck at home by ourselves used to make all the time, cinnamon toast. Then I used to, this is a thing my sister taught me. hot chocolate powder in milk. It was more than like, it was flip that. It was like you put the hot chocolate powder in a bowl and then you pour some milk over it to just like wet it a little bit, and then you eat that. So it's a little moist. And then you eat it. Kind of like a powdery cereal. And I thought it was just the coolest thing in the world. Until, you wouldn't get enough, again, with the ratios, you wouldn't get enough milk to powder ratio. And then the powder would get stuck in your throat. And you're like, oh, and just cough a cloud of hot chocolate powder into the air and all over your kitchen table. Man. But I remember that snack, and I remember thinking that it was so good. Then there was like the iced tea. Costco used to sell either like the Nestea or the Lipton tea mix. So you could just like spoon the powder into your water and then fill it with ice and stuff. And I remember making my tea every time so dark, because I would just go spoon, 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 stir, 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 and just watch it rain down the rest of the powder and have it land on the bottom to create that nice little coating at the end. So you could just have like a little bit of water at the end of your iced tea and just swish and chug. That was one of those weird things I did as a kid. And then flaming hot Cheetos was another thing. They are still a big thing for kids nowadays, but I mean, I think, can't you like light them on fire and use them as a candle? Like, isn't that like that some of the ingredients are like actually flammable? But I used to eat those so much, my hands would be stained red for days. I would be working at a bank as an adult with stained red fingers because I would eat them so much. It was, yeah. The amount of things that we used to eat. Or candies, like the Runts candies, Sour Punch straws. Those two were like my main candy snacks whenever I would win the prize at school, to be able to be like lazy for a day, so I could just, like, kids would be able to bring a sleeping bag and stuff and just like read and be lazy and eat whatever they want whenever they wanted in class. There's like one chosen person every once in a while, and I would get that, and I would have my Runts, and I would have my Sour Punch straws, and whatever other junk food I wanted that my mom had gotten me, and I would just be a bum on a Friday class, and it was just the best thing in the world. Loved it. But yes, my green Sour Punch straws and my Runts, those were my jam during those days. But all the cereals, please tell me I'm not the only one that remembers those small boxes of cereal. And I think somebody said they still sell them in stores. Like, you can get them for camping and stuff. But I remember, like, I knew that you could get them at the stores. And sometimes I think my mom would get them. But getting them in the mail just made them so much better. Because they were free. And it was a surprise. But then, like I said, during that time, we were all about microwaving stuff or stuff that was quick and easy. I remember they used to have at Costco or Price Club, whatever it was at the time, Aussie pies, which were like chicken pot pies that were super good that you could warm up. And they were so good until I like looked at the back and I saw how much like fat was on them, and I was like, oh, like in them, and I was like, oh my God, back when I started to care about what I ate. And I was like, I can't eat these ever again because there's so much fat in them. And I was terribly, terribly sad. Then there was like, or speaking of pies, they have like remember going to the grocery store, and again, I think they still have them, but those pies that were filled with stuff like cherry and whatever, like I used to love those chocolate pies. And they had like the glaze over the top and the thick outer shell, and then like was filled with chocolate. I used to love those so much, going to the grocery store and picking those out, until, again, I started to get into like reading the back of the nutrition labels and seeing what was in them. And I was just like, no, I can't have it. Oh, childhood ruined. But, there was still other things that if you don't immediately see the label and see how much fat and whatever is in it, in your brain, especially growing up, it doesn't exist. So like the big tubs of ice cream. Do you remember those big tubs of like Neapolitan ice cream that we'd get for birthday parties? Used to love like having a sleepover with my friends, and we would sit around this tub of ice cream in the morning watching Never Been Kissed or something like that. And I would just dump in some M&Ms and we would just sit there, and that was our breakfast. We would just eat ice cream with M&Ms, and that was like totally acceptable. Mom wasn't around. She was upstairs or doing whatever. She couldn't care less about, like, we were quiet and not bugging her, so we could eat whatever we wanted. And I feel like that was a big thing in the 90s, in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Like, just leave me alone. That was, I mean, that was my mom. I'm sure like other parents were busy working. I mean, my mom was busy working, but other parents, were busy doing things, and they just needed their kids to have snacks on the go. But my mom was like, peace. Have your ice cream. Leave me alone. And then I can't forget about Snapple iced tea. Those were always, like, you would always see them in shows too, like on Friends. Friends would always be drinking Snapple, and we'd always like mess with the top and push it down once it was unsealed. But like the peach iced tea or the lemon iced tea, my mom would always let me get a couple of Snapples when we would be making our way down to go see my oldest sister in the Bay Area. And that was just like the best. Like, I get my Snapple iced tea and mess with the cap and like see if there was anything on the cap. Those are the days. Like simple things, like just as a kid trying to figure out the ratio of frosting on a little cupcake or like cheese spread to snapping a little top of a Snapple bottle. Now kids are like, I need my phone. I need this. But we're like, no, chasing raindrops on the glass during a rainstorm, like hoping that our favorite raindrop wins and being sad when it doesn't. Stuff like that. Like those were, I mean, I may not have had the best childhood, but that simpler time. And I feel like it was fun. So also, I can't forget to mention SpaghettiOs. I don't know if I already mentioned SpaghettiOs. I think I might have. I did a previous cut that was like 26 minutes, so I can't remember what I've talked about. But my husband and mother-in-law talked about eating SpaghettiOs. I can smell it. Nope, can't do it. Then there was the Big Vinny, and I talked about that on my previous food episode. The Big Vinny, that used to be like my favorite, made me feel like a grown-up food. When my mom and stepdad were out of town, I would order the Big Vinny from Round Table and the wild cherry Pepsi 2-liter bottle, and then have ice cream. And that was like my grown-up meal. I paid for it myself with my money from working at the ice rink, and I just sat there on the couch living in the lap of luxury, or that's how it felt, all by myself with my big old pizza and my big old soda and my ice cream. And that was just the dream. Now it's like, now I make homemade pizza, which is amazing, but it's hard work. I make my homemade pizza. I have Mexican Coca-Cola when I have a soda, and because because it has like real sugar and not the fake crap. And then I make my own homemade ice cream. So it's like there's extra work that goes into my enjoyment of food now. But I do feel better eating it. And then I don't know, for those of you that live in my area of like the Sacramento area and remember like the Taco Bell at Sunrise Mall, I can't end this episode or end this section without talking about the bean burritos at the Taco Bell in the Sunrise Mall. If any of you that grew up around the Sunrise Mall remember, or if you grew up with a Taco Bell in a mall, they had the best burritos ever. Like, they had the cheese and sauce mix. Like, again, I never thought in a million years I would say the word ratio 700 times in an episode talking about food, but here we are. The mix of sauce and cheese together throughout that burrito every time was perfect. And like, it just had like this amazing taste to it. And it was a Taco Bell in a mall, like right at the entrance. It was just, I used to love those burritos, and I would get burritos from another Taco Bell somewhere else, and then it just would not be the same. It wouldn't have the same ratio of the stringy, powdery cheese that is filled with wood pieces and whatever now, the cellulose. So ruin that for us. But it would have just the amount of that cheese and then the sauce and the bean mixture and everything. And it was just the perfect burrito every time from Sunrise Mall Taco Bell. I was just all about those when I was a kid and I was with my friends at the mall or with my family. That was just one of my little joys in life. But there's so many different things that we used to eat as kids that now we're like, oh, what were we thinking? All the cereals. I would love to eat all of those things. And I try not to make foods good or bad, because I feel like if you say something's bad and then you consume it, you're going to make yourself feel bad. You know what I mean? So I try to limit that. And I don't want to create food fear for my kids, but I just want, you have to know what's best for you and your body. And I don't think that like Kraft singles is something my body's going to be like, give me more, please. Or, Captain Crunch, like, I love my mouth being ripped to bits. Please give us more. I don't think my body's going to like any of that stuff. But I do miss eating all of those things and the simplicity of it, and just being able to microwave whatever and just, and make it just for yourself, not have to worry about other people. It was, again, simpler times. We were on our own. A lot of us were just on our own, just set free to do whatever we wanted. Just don't burn the house down. For me, it was don't burn the house down. And if somebody calls asking for me, don't give them my work number. Did that one time. My mom was very upset. But anyway, so please tell me, if going through this whole list of foods, if you were like, oh my gosh, I used to eat those all the time. I can't believe it. That makes me think of this. That makes me think of that. Any of that stuff. I want to hear all of your memories about these things. I love that kind of nostalgia. Nostalgia? There we go. It's fun. I love thinking about that stuff because that's stuff that we all connect to and relate to. Like red vines, that's one thing I still eat. I don't care about the red dye in red vines. If I'm going to a movie theater, I'm going to do the test. I'm going to do the squeeze test and the push test. And I'm going to try and find the softest package of red vines I can at the store or at the theater, wherever. And I'm going to eat my red vines during the movie. I don't care that it's like 2 or 3 twists. It's 100 calories or whatever. I don't care. And I don't care about the red dye 40, whatever. It is my treat. And it is one small little vice that I have when I go to the movies, red vines. That is one of those things that I love. And then, so anyway, there's also, I can go on and talk about food all day. There was like weird things that my mom used to eat, like liverwurst with like the little can with the devil on it. She used to love that with crackers. And she would always get me to try and eat it. And it was like, I know that it tastes like dog food, but I'm going to eat it anyway. Or she used to get at Trader Joe's, and I think they discontinued them like 30 years ago, but they had animal crackers that were like ginger kind of cinnamon animal crackers in a clear tub. And they were the best tasting animal crackers ever. Because they weren't just like your regular ones that you get from the little box, at the grocery store. They were in a tub and they had like a ginger type flavor, but it wasn't too gingery. And they were so good. And man, I don't ever go to Trader Joe's because I don't I can't deal with parking lots like that. But if they ever brought those back, I'd make the sacrifice to go into that parking lot and get all of those animal crackers, because I used to love those. So it's crazy how when you start thinking about foods that you used to eat and then like one more pop into your memory, like, oh my gosh, that and that and that. And like, can you believe that we used to do that or that? Like the tubs of ice cream. My friends and I, that was a solid breakfast for us. That was like totally fine. Or just like a cold waffle, like on the run. Like whatever, just slap a little bit of butter on it. I'm out the door. Like, it doesn't, whatever was quick, whatever was easy, whatever you can microwave or defrost quickly or whatever that was shoved into a bag or a lunchbox quickly, that was what we ate growing up. And it's a little different now that we're all adults and have children of our own and people to take care of. A little bit different now. It takes a little bit more effort for us trying to live out the rest of our lives and raise other humans. But it is funny to think about all of those different things and just like man, like those things were awesome of not caring, and you could eat whatever you want, didn't gain any weight, didn't even care. Like it wasn't anything like that. Like you just didn't care. You didn't think about that. You just ate food because it was delicious and you were having a good time with your friends. Like I love thinking about that stuff. I had such a good time eating chicken teriyaki skewers with my friend Jamie. When she wasn't trying to force her disgusting pizza Lunchable on me, we were enjoying our chicken teriyaki skewers, and they were so good. Or the ice cream or going to McDonald's with friends, or after on a Friday night with my mom before heading to Blockbuster, stuff like that. Like that, I love that stuff. Or Jack in the Box with the sourdough Jack and the cappuccino shake and dipping my fries in the shake, stuff like that. Like it's just, I like thinking about that stuff because those are my happy memories. And you can connect with other people when you think about that stuff and you talk about that. So let me know your favorite food memories, your favorite foods as a kid that you ate that now you're thinking about it, you're like, oh my God, I'm not touching that stuff ever again. Please let me know. Connect with me through socials, all of that stuff. I really want to hear about it because it makes me feel warm inside and it makes me feel closer to you guys. And it just brightens up my day. And I hope this episode has brightened up your day. Before we end though, I do want to talk about some food Mandela effects. See if you guys can relate or remember this. So 2 I'm going to talk about are when you think of Thanksgiving stuffing, like the one that's not homemade, the one that's in the red box, that most of us, my mom would make her own homemade stuffing, but like if she were to make like a Thanksgiving style dinner, or if we were to go somewhere else and you see that red box of stuffing, what do you remember the brand being? I remember, so does my sister, so do a lot of other people remember stovetop stuffing, correct? Stovetop stuffing, that's what we remember. But remember the black label at the top that says Stouffer's, stovetop stuffing. That's what tons of us remember. Never actually existed. Stouffer's only did frozen stuff, like their mac and cheese. Which is, I used to love as a kid as well. Like when I could get the perfect little bits of like burnt cheese over the top, and I would save that for last, and that was like the best bite. Those were great. But Stouffer's only, supposedly, here in this timeline, have only done frozen foods. So Stouffer's stovetop stuffing, or like when you think about Thanksgiving, you think about Stouffer's. Like that was like one of the sayings or something like that. It was make Thanksgiving Stouffer's good. Like that was what all of us remember, and we remember the label, but it's actually never been Stouffer's. Stovetop stuffing has always been owned by Kraft. And that's the thing with like the internet, things can get changed, things can get erased. Like you only know what you know because of what somebody else put on the internet, right? Like, so if people decide just to not put that information there, like you would have to go hunting for it. But I remember Stouffer's stovetop stuffing. So do a bunch of other people, but never actually existed. Super, super weird and frustrating. Then there is think about Raisin Bran. The Raisin Bran with the 2 scoops of raisins being held by the sun. When you picture the sun, what does he look like? What are you picturing? Picture the sun. Does he have sunglasses on? If you said yes, I hate to break it to you, but he's never had sunglasses. I remember the sunglasses. I remember it. But he has never had sunglasses, apparently. So he's just been like this smiling sun. But I remember, because that's like partially where I would get the idea of drawing the sun with the sunglasses on, was because we used to have Raisin Bran all the time, and I'd see the sun with the sunglasses. But never existed. So I don't, again, these Mandela effects, super weird. Don't understand them. There's a couple that I'm going to do next week. There's actual proof of that. There's what they call residual proof in TV shows. But they still deny this stuff. This guy's been dead for a long time, but they still deny that this was ever a thing. But there is proof on multiple TV shows that this was actually a real thing. So we'll talk about that next week. We are going to wrap this episode up. I hope you had a great time going down memory lane. I'm starving now, so I hope you are as well. But I won't be pouring any milk into any hot chocolate powder today. I'll do something more substantial with protein and all the good macros and blah blah blah. I'll be a good girl. But I hope that you are hungry like me, but also had a great time going down this lane, thinking about all of the foods and drinks that we used to grow up with. Again, send me your thoughts, your food memories, any of that stuff. I want to know all about it. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. We will see you on the next Menagerie Monday. Bye, guys.